Let me read the preamble to the Constitution to you. And what instigated this is a young person who has a call that I see on our call screen and a comment. Let me just read the preamble to the Constitution. Because if you're a radical liberal nutjob, that's all you read, the preamble, and then you forget about the rest of it. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, and here's the phrase, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. And it goes on in over 4,000 more words. Of course, none of it matters to the left. The Constitution, is written by a bunch of slaveholders, white guys. And that's that. But there's 7 articles. And as you know, 27 amendments. 2 of which dealt with prohibition. We the people. So this phrase, promote the general welfare, does that phrase open the door wide to everything the left wants to do in this country? Does that phrase justify everything that the left wants to do to this country, to you? Does that mean the federal government has the power to do all these things that the left wants it to do? Promote the general welfare. Because that's what's being taught in law schools and classes throughout America. For example, here we have Andrew, Chesapeake, Virginia, listening on the great WMAL, a student. How are you, sir?
I'm very good. Thank you for taking my call, Mr. Levin.
Yeah, go right ahead.
All right. Well, my government teacher gave me a homework worksheet today, and it was about an article of the SNAP food stamps program. And 2 questions that I'm seeking clarity to is what phrase from the preamble to the U.S. Constitution may be used to justify the existence and credibility of SNAP? And does SNAP foster a culture of dependency, or does it display the tenets of the golden rule? And I put it fosters a culture of laziness. If the government pays for my needs, why should I get a job to pay for the bills by myself?
Oh, I'm sure your teacher's going to love that.
Yeah.
I assume this teacher's a huge lib, correct?
I suspect so, yeah.
Yeah, I think so, just by the nature of the question, which, by the way, shows, not to be disrespectful to your teacher, a significant amount of ignorance. First of all, what about the rest of the Constitution? We have other articles in the Constitution which specify the authority, the first 3 articles, of each branch of the federal government, right? Article 1, Article 2, Article 3. And if the general welfare clause, that's what she's talking about, or is it a he or she?
She.
That's what she's talking about, the preamble, which is really a screwy way to look at this, but the left does it. This is how they pervert the Constitution. If that means what she says it means, then what's the point of Article 1, Article 2, and Article 3, which lay out with specificity the powers of each of those 3 branches of the federal government? It doesn't say you just have the power to take care of the general welfare. And you have a pencil there or a pen?
Yes, sir.
Or you can go back and download the program and listen to it if you'd like. You remember who Thomas Jefferson is?
Yes, sir.
Thomas Jefferson made clear that the general welfare clause, as it's called, but the general welfare language in the preamble, could not possibly control the rest of the Constitution. That what it was referring to was the general government, the power of the general government, the federal government, not the power over the people as a general rule. You've heard of James Madison, I take it, right?
Yes, sir.
The so-called father of the Constitution. Madison made the same point, that the general welfare clause could not possibly mean what the critics said it meant. And by the way, Jefferson and Madison were responding to delegates in the state ratification conventions after the Constitution was adopted in Philadelphia who were concerned that some day down the road, people who lacked their virtue would twist the language of the preamble to the Constitution to mean what your teacher says she says it means. And they were trying to reassure the anti-federalists and some federalists that it couldn't possibly mean that. You ever hear of Joseph Story?
No, sir.
Joseph Story was an associate justice to the United States Supreme Court, and he wrote extensively about the Constitution, considered one of the greatest legal minds, both then and now, and wrote at length about the law and the Constitution, and he made exactly the same point. So nobody believed at the time of the adoption, ratification, and thereafter, within a half-century period, that the General Welfare Clause, or the preamble to the Constitution generally, would neuter all of the rest of the provisions of the Constitution and authorize the federal government to do whatever the federal government wanted to do. Now, that addresses your second part of your question. Now, as to the first, the Golden Rule and food stamps and so forth, what was the question and what was your answer again?
The question was SNAP foster a culture of dependency, or does it display the tenets of the Golden Rule? And my response was, it fosters a culture of laziness. If the government pays for my needs, why should I get a job to pay for it myself?
Mm-hmm. And she will say, you ready? What about people who are in desperate need, who can't find a job? What about them? What should they do? And your answer?
And my answer would be, for those people who truly do need it and do make efforts to get out of the government assistance programs, they are the people who deserve it, not the other people who sit on the couches to soak up government.
I think that's pretty good. I would also say this. This is just me. You say what you want. The Golden Rule has nothing to do with this. Taxes are confiscatory. Government programs, at least for those who pay for them, are not voluntary. The Golden Rule applies to people acting in their own private capacity, their own private personal will, through charity, whether they be religious or non-religious, but by themselves. You know, giving somebody a hand out, or a hand up, or making a donation, or giving somebody a job, or bringing somebody into their home and feeding them. That's what the Golden Rule is about, not big, bloated, centralized government. But I think your point is also well taken. Even Adam Smith would say there are occasions when if people need help, it's understandable that the government would do that. But that's not redistribution of wealth. And the problem is we're not really talking about giving people a hand up anymore, are we? We're talking about a massive redistribution of wealth, decisions made by a relative handful of people on how much wealth somebody should have, and interfering with the lifestyle and decisions of private citizens. So they may talk about the needy, but what they're really aimed at is the large middle class and other people, controlling them and limiting what they can do, don't you think?
Yes, I would agree.
All right, how old are you?
I'm 17, sir.
Well, you're terrific. I'm going to send you a signed copy of the Liberty Amendments. And at the break, I'm going to look for some of the language from Jefferson and Madison and Story who would underscore the point that I'm making and the point that you're likely to make to your teacher, okay?
I would greatly appreciate that, sir.
All right, young man, don't hang up. That's Andrew from Chesapeake, Virginia. Let me tell you why you have to be smarter to be a conservative than a liberal. This is exactly why. You have a 17-year-old who has to develop arguments and a rational thinking process which embraces history and human experience and take on the authority figure in the classroom who has the power to knock his grade down. That's why conservatives are smarter and, quite frankly, more courageous than you little liberals out there.